This video is sponsored by Squarespace. A few months ago, I called Apple's M1 Mac Mini the best value desktop that Apple offers, and even made the bold declaration that it's the only Mac desktop that you should buy. Well, after 3 months of use with the M1 Mac Mini, do I still think that? And are there any other problems or issues that have popped up since my initial review? Well, while I don't want to bore you too much, okay, who am I kidding? I love boring you guys. Which is why if you aren't subscribed yet, you should hit that subscribe button while we go over some of the basics of the M1 Mac Mini. So the design of the Mini isn't exactly exciting, but I think it does look better than most desktop PC towers, and while it's not the smallest desktop out there, it's pretty compact and can easily take a spot on your desk without losing much desk space. I mentioned in my last video that the Mac Mini was small enough to almost be considered a semi-portable Mac. In fact, a few people in that comment section mentioned that they too kind of use the Mac Mini as a portable Mac, bringing it to different locations or different areas to hook up to a monitor workstation. This is kind of the role that my Mac Mini now serves, moving between the setup you see behind me and also over to a separate desk area where I run live streams for my podcast, GadgetCast. By the way, if you do listen to podcasts and you aren't already subscribed to the GadgetCast podcast, please consider doing so. It's where I talk about technology with my buddy Travis MCP every Sunday, and we would really love it if you guys would subscribe. So go ahead. I'll just sit here and wait while you subscribe. Okay, you did? All right, I'm trusting you, so make sure you did it. Now, the Mini is also unique among any of the other new M1 products because it's currently the only desktop that Apple sells with Apple Silicon, which comes with a lot of benefits. First of all, it's the cheapest Mac in the entire lineup, starting at $699 for the base model. It's also the most powerful M1 Mac that Apple currently sells, even edging out the $1,300 M1 MacBook Pro. Just very, very slightly in benchmarks and tests, but we'll talk more about the power of the M1 chip later in the video. Now, even though it is the cheapest M1 Mac, it's also the hardest one to get set up because it doesn't include a mouse, keyboard, or a monitor, meaning that if you don't have these already sitting around, you're going to have to spend a bit more money to get everything you need to get this setup up and running. If you need some recommendations for some accessories, I'll leave some affiliate links in the description below, but just know that if you don't have these accessories readily available, you will be spending quite a bit more money. Now, because it's also a desktop, the Mini also has a decent port selection to connect these accessories to, and it's a night and day difference over the just 2 USB-C ports found on the MacBook Air and M1 MacBook Pro. It provides you with 2 USB-A ports, 2 USB 4 USB-C ports, an HDMI port, an Ethernet port, and the good old headphone jack. Now, while this port selection is good, I ran into a few problems with my Mac Mini's ports. And that mostly has to do with the distancing between the USB-A and the USB-C ports. They're just too close together. So when plugging in bigger accessories like my Elgato Cam Link, the physical size of this accessory literally blocks the other USB port that's right next to it, meaning that I only get one USB port at my disposal. Now, this isn't a deal breaker by any means, and you might not even run into this issue if you're just fitting in a standard size USB accessory, but it's something that I noticed that I just wanted to inform other people just in case you also use similar accessories like me. Now, in my last video on the Mac Mini, I mentioned that the Bluetooth connectivity could be pretty spotty, especially if your peripherals were farther away from the Mac Mini. Thankfully, Apple has addressed this issue with the macOS 11.2 software update, which added increased reliability to Bluetooth devices, and for the most part, this seems to have fixed the previous spotty connection that I was having with my Logitech Bluetooth mouse, although I have seen other users say that it didn't address their Bluetooth issue, so this may vary going user to user. Now let's get back to the M1 chip, because that's really the thing that sets this Mac apart from all of the other desktop Macs. The great thing about the M1 Mac Mini is that it has the best performance out of all of the M1 Macs, and it's also the cheapest M1 Mac in the lineup, making it possibly the best valued Mac that Apple currently sells. And it's one that not only basic users can fall in love with, but also hobbyists, creatives, and even pros. It's a really great value desktop. Now, before we go over the M1, let's talk about something else that's also easy to fall in love with if you need to build a website, and that's our sponsor for this video, Squarespace. Squarespace is the best place to go if you need to build a website, and best of all, it requires absolutely zero experience to get started. I was able to get my website up and running in just about half an hour with its own customized fonts, colors, images, and even a video playing in the background of the homepage section. Now, you probably already know that Squarespace is the easiest place to get a website up and running, but it's so much more powerful than just a blog or landing page for your personal brand. In fact, we recently used Squarespace as the home for my podcast, GadgetCast, where we even set up a custom storefront selling exclusive GadgetCast hats and patches. This was my first time selling anything online, and the experience could not have been easier, with Squarespace handling all of the e-commerce for the site and making it easy to accept a wide range of payment options from Stripe, PayPal, and yes, even Apple Pay. Squarespace also connects up to G Suite, so you can get your own professional email tied directly to your domain name. And best of all, you can get a 14-day free trial and 10% off your first purchase by going to squarespace.com/Greg'sGadgets or clicking on the link in the description below. So make sure you check out Squarespace today for all your website, blog, portfolio, and online store needs. And thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. We've gone over the M1's power before, but really it's something remarkable when you consider that in tests, this little entry-level Mac is able to even beat Apple's most expensive desktop Mac Pro in certain tasks like video exporting. In my 3 months of using this M1 Mac Mini, I have really not found myself wanting for more CPU power. And when I compare the Mini to my previous $4,000 i9 Intel iMac, this base model Mac Mini just stomps it in tasks like video exporting, finishing a 4K ProRes export in half the time it would take that more expensive Intel iMac. And yes, I know I've said this before, but think about that mind-boggling jump. I literally had to spend $400 on the CPU upgrade to jump up to that i9 processor on the iMac, and the base model M1 chip that ships with the full-fledged computer is just $300 more than what I spent on a chip upgrade. This generational transition jump just doesn't happen every day, and when you take a step back and actually appreciate the power in this M1 Mac Mini, you realize just how far ahead Apple is in their chip design, and it's kind of crazy that we're getting this much power out of the entry-level machine. Enough so that it's actually not only competing with the previous Intel architecture, but beating it in so many other ways. Consider also that this power comes with even better power efficiency, and the Mac Mini's fans have been pretty much silent during my entire 3 months of using the device. I can't recall really any time that I've heard the fans spin up, even when exporting a video. And literally the other day, I turned on my iMac for something, and just by booting the device up and just staring at the blank desktop, not even running any applications, I could already hear the fans spinning. And when I was video editing on that iMac, the fans got even louder. When doing something like exporting video, they were really audible. And this almost silent design of the Mac Mini works extremely well in areas where you're doing audio work. So if you're recording music, doing a podcast, or live streaming, you'll never have to worry about your microphone picking up the fan noise during those sessions. And even if you don't work with audio, the fact that you just don't hear the computer, it just is really nice and gives you peace of mind. Now, as much as I love the M1 chip, it isn't all completely perfect. I would say the only weak spot for me with the M1 Mac Mini continues to be in the graphics department. And honestly, for what this computer costs and its form factor, the graphics actually aren't bad at all. And for the games I play, like StarCraft 2 or Civilization 6, I'm able to play these games at 1080p on medium settings. And for an integrated graphics card, I really can't complain. And even on previous Mac Minis, we haven't had the option for dedicated graphics cards, so I really shouldn't even be listing this as a negative. But if you're expecting to get dedicated desktop class graphics performance on this Mac Mini, I think that's one area where you'll be disappointed with the M1 chip. Especially considering that we no longer have the ability to connect external GPUs through the Thunderbolt ports on the new M1 Macs. I would like to see an even bigger boost to graphics capabilities in future versions of the Mac Mini. Now, it wouldn't be an M1 video without talking about your favorite subject. Greg, how much memory do I need? Well, I would say that the 8GB model is actually pretty fine for most users. That's actually the model that I own. So working with multiple tabs in Safari or Chrome, watching videos, word processing, taking Zoom calls, all of that stuff works great. And it even works fine for me with heavier tasks like editing 4K videos around 10 minutes in length, or editing audio for my podcast. Basically, I could run my entire YouTube channel on this 8GB Mac Mini and experience only a few minor hiccups. I would, however, recommend that if you are planning to use this for tasks like video, photo editing, music production, or just other tasks that normally would require more memory, I would probably advise you to upgrade to the 16GB model if you can afford it, just to be safe and to have a completely frictionless experience. Alright, so 3 months later, the M1 Mac Mini is still well worth the money. And even if you are considering maybe getting one of the future Macs, you should realize that these next generation of Macs that are coming out are going to be more expensive Macs and aren't going to give you the same insane value that the current Mac Mini gets you. So if you're looking to buy the Mac Mini, consider using my affiliate link below to buy one. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like. If you want to see more from my channel, make sure you subscribe. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.